and welcome back to my channel, All About Alex. And if you're new here, welcome. My channel is a lifestyle channel, which means I usually do videos about cleaning, organizing, decorating, and things like that. I also have my own small business where I go and I do those things for my clients. But today's video is special just because I have my two sons here with me. This is DeShan.
Hi.
And this is Anthony. And we just saw Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, I believe that's what it's called. And we are so excited. We just wanted to share our thoughts with you and just kind of talk about what we thought about the movie and kind of, you know, where we feel like it fits into the whole grand scheme of the multiverse and the MCU in general. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please stick around. We'd love to have you, and here we go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just our overall thoughts of the movie, whether we liked it or not. So that's what we're going to do first. So Anthony, we'll start with you. What do you think, like, for the overall movie?
I thought it was all right. I think there was a couple of really good things, and there was a couple of things that I thought held it back a little. I think generally it kind of fits into how I've been feeling about a lot of stuff recently in the MCU. Where it's, you know, I liked it, I had fun, but I didn't feel like it reached the heights of like stuff we had seen in the past.
So you think like Phase 4 is just kind of the same as with the things you've been thinking about with all of the Phase 4 stuff?
Yeah, I mean, they don't all have like the same problems, but a lot of them, it's like they'll just have some problems that I think always makes them like fun movies to watch. Like if somebody was watching them and I walked in, I'd watch it with them. But I don't know if someone was like, pick an MCU movie to watch, I don't know if I would go to these ones.
Okay. And DeShan, what about you? What were your overall thoughts of Doctor Strange?
Well, I mean, I thought it was amazing. That was a fantastic movie. I mean, I'm still kind of keyed up because we just saw it. But, I mean, my first impressions is that, oh, that was great. I definitely want to see it again. I loved pretty much everything about it. I feel like I want to go back and really absorb it. You know, sit down and just absorb it more. See how it changes as, you know, on the repeat viewing.
Well, I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was scary to me. I'm a big chicken, y'all, so it doesn't take much to scare me. It's not like it's a horror film, but it has a lot of like scary moments. So that was very different. And then, like I said, overall, I thought it was a good movie. Is it my favorite movie? No, but it was a really good movie, and I love Doctor Strange. So
it might be intense for like younger kids.
Yeah, that's true. So DeShan, we'll start with you. What were some of the things you loved about the movie?
I mean, I've been a fan of Sam Raimi my whole life, just because he's the guy that got me into comic books in the first place with Spider-Man. And I was really hoping he would bring it visually and as his storytelling style and how he makes characters all feel like people, even if you only get to meet them for a brief moment. And I think he really brought it. All the things that I loved about like the first Spider-Man movie, which was, you know, which is a great movie even if it's got kinks in it. It's the stuff that I really like about this. Really,
you're talking about the very first one.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah. The characters feel intense. You want that, especially with like your villains, and you want to feel like there's real legitimate stakes, you know? Like, I don't mean like the end of the world. I think the end of the world is actually overused a little bit in superhero stuff, but you feel like there's two people with two ideas and there's no compromise. That's when I think things get interesting. And I think especially because the way that they use Doctor Strange's arc or what they're trying to say about him, and they use Wanda as a reflection of that. And they're trying to play with the idea of how similar are they really? How different are they really? And then the way that the climax culminates answers that question. It's just like so many fun details and so many neat little things. Because I mean, my main thing about movies that have magic in it that makes them boring to me most of the time is that I feel like magic is just such an unrefined, nebulous idea that it's hard to make it understandable in sequences. Like, what are the rules here? Can you just do whatever you want? You know, you want it to be creative and fun, you know, and I think Doctor Strange has so far in the MCU always brought like, oh, these really creative uses of magic, making it look interesting, giving it its own flavor. Just like when Doctor Strange goes into like a battle with somebody, it isn't just shooting like multiple colored energy blasts at each other or something. You know, they're
Yeah.
actually doing creative things and
With the magic.
finding ways around other people's spells and
Yeah.
having to like, oh, I might have to break this rule in order to get around that
Yeah.
person's thing that they
Yeah.
did. I might have to do this thing, and they have to get real crazy with it. And
Yeah.
they're just like the two villain heroes, Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, are constantly trying to find ways to get around the other
Yeah.
person. That's what I really liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like just in general when you talked about the magic, just like how so far with Phase 4, because they brought in a lot more magic in Phase 4, you can see the different, like they're all represented by different colors, so you can really tell who is who, what's going on.
Yeah.
For like somebody who doesn't know what's happening, you can tell like, okay, this must be her magic. Even when she's not around, you can see her color. And then that's coming from her, or Doctor Strange's color, and that's coming from him. So I really like that. And like we've seen Agatha Harkness and Wanda and Doctor Strange and Shang-Chi, and we've seen like all their different kinds of magic and how they use it differently. It's not like you said, it's not that boring, like all of it's the same.
Yeah.
They all use it differently, and they all have their own colors, which helps. And they all use it for different purposes.
Yeah, I think towards the end of the movie, there's a scene where like there's a bunch of monsters and their eyes all glowing red. And it's like they could have picked like any shade of red, but it's definitely like the Scarlet Witch magic red, which like instantly clues you in that there's some kind of connection here.
Yeah.
So.
And that really helps a lot.
Do they look like Chthon to you, those monsters?
Yeah, I think they're designed after him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the movie they say that he built that room.
Created the dark hole, or he wrote whatever his spells he had all over there.
Yeah. So Anthony, what were the things that you liked most about the movie?
I think the best thing in the movie is probably the characters in general. I really liked the characters. I thought they were all fun. I thought Elizabeth Olsen was really like scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was. And I've never seen her like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like very different from
where she started.
Yeah, or even just like, you see her in WandaVision, and she's very different from even there. Benedict Cumberbatch is playing Doctor Strange. There's a couple different Doctor Stranges in the movies, and so he kind of has to play them all different, but he also has to play the same, like, couple of character traits that they all have that could lead down any different path. I thought he did really good with that.
Yeah, he did an excellent job. I didn't even think about the fact, I knew it, but I didn't think about subconsciously that he did all of those different parts.
Yeah.
That he did it, but I just when you said that, I was like, wow,
You're not thinking about the same guy just talking to himself.
He really did a great job being all those different. So it was like 3 of them, right? 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And he knocked it out of the park with all of them.
Yeah.
And they all were different, like you said, but they all were kind of the same too.
It's like you could see, like, there's a couple times where Christine says, like, this is your flaw, and you see that they all have
the same flaw.
Yeah. And then also I agree with DeShan. I think Sam Raimi did really well. In my opinion, it's a very different, like, you instantly feel that it's not like any other Marvel movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not even just with its, like, tone, which I think, Danny Elfman doing the score, who's like
Danny Elfman
always does like
did the Spider-Man movies too.
I think he does pretty good score. But there's like also a lot of like visual things that we don't get to see often in the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in the trailer, there's that part where it's like spinning around, and then we get into Doctor Strange waking up, or the part where it goes into Wanda's eye. I thought was really cool.
Yes.
There's a couple of things. Some of them I thought were a little jarring. There's a couple of like cuts that we don't see very often. Not that they weren't bad, but it's very Star Wars. Like Star Wars is the only people who uses
the
wipes.
Yeah.
But there was a couple wipes in this movie, and I was just like, oh, it's a wipe. Whereas just like the whole screen turns black, and then it's the next. I think people say they're like PowerPoint transitions, and so we see a couple of those. But yeah, I thought those were probably my 2 biggest compliments to the movie.
Mine, kind of like the same with you guys. You could definitely tell from the first opening that it was different. It was a different movie. It looked different, and I was expecting it to be a lot like Doctor Strange, the first one, in that you have all these different colors, and it's just very out there, And so I was expecting that, and even going in expecting that, it was even different from that, and so that was a nice surprise. You could tell who directed that movie. It was really visually stunning. Like he said, just the camera angles, you were like going inside of people's heads, and it was crazy. And so I thought that was really good. And then the actors America Chavez, Wanda, Doctor Strange, even Wong, like they all did an excellent job with their parts. So that was another thing that I liked about it. So now we'll talk about some of the things that you had an issue with.
I guess for me, I felt like there was a couple of moments in the movie that kind of felt forced. So for me, like part of when they walk into the memory pad, it shows you your memories, and it's like, we just need to show her. We just need to show what her backstory is. Right. So here it is.
It's just kind of a thing that just kind of exists.
And it's never even like the world is almost just the regular universe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking that too when I saw it.
And it's never really anything more than like he sees her past, and now they can connect on that.
Yeah, they don't use it again either. It's just like there because they needed a way.
Like the only real difference we see between the universe, besides like different characters, is they got circular pizzas, and it's like, so the memory device kind of sticks out. And then like also, Wanda and her fight scenes, like what she can and can't do, it seemed to be like controlled by the plot a little bit. Where there was times where it's like, couldn't she grab them with her telekinesis, or couldn't she like warp reality? Because she does it sometimes. Like sometimes he'll just grab them by telekinesis and drag them to her, but then other times she'll be trying to chase them, or like they'll fly through a portal, and it's like, couldn't she have just grabbed them before they flew through the portal? And it's like, just like some of her things seemed a little bit plot.
I will say with the portal thing, it seems like the portal like tries to pull you in. So you could argue that she can't just grab them and force them back. Like it'd be very difficult, because there was that time when she did have her in her binds and the portal sucked her out by force, basically. The first time she had her and they opened the portal. So that's the one. I do agree.
Like it had like some kind of suction, like, because even in the first one, when she was trying to fight the monster was trying to get her, and it pulled her and the other Doctor Strange in.
I think America Chavez doesn't realize it, but I think her raw power is stronger than Scarlet Witch's raw power.
I think Scarlet Witch was still stronger, but America was probably in raw power the closest person to her.
Yeah.
Because we do see, like, even after she starts tapping into her power, Scarlet Witch is still able to, like, she gets in a few good hits, but Scarlet Witch is still able to overpower her in the end.
That's when she says, like, I can't beat you.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much.
Well, you got a lot of things. I mean, trust me, my thing's going to be shorter than yours.
Whatever you have issues with. You are the film major here.
Yeah.
I thought the action, while like visually unique, Scarlet Witch does a couple of like things that like she's like warping reality in different ways and stuff. But then I felt like sometimes, she defeats like Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic in like 2 seconds each. And then she has like a long fight with Captain Carter, and it's like, what's Captain Carter doing? Like this was, she fought Thanos 2 movies ago, or like she, we see a WandaVision, she could just instantly like touch you and warp your reality.
Yeah.
So, and it's like she is so much more powerful than even Doctor Strange that he doesn't really ever have a defense against her. And like in the very end, he gets like a upper hand for a second. It's like there's a scene in the movie early on where she tracks Doctor Strange and Wong in a room, and then she just throws them both into walls, and it's like, I mean, she could have turned Doctor Strange into string, because she does that to Mr. Fantastic later.
But could she turn Doctor Strange?
But I'm just thinking that.
She also
what about
power,
her?
right?
What about her holding back just a little, or the good part of her?
I don't know, because it's not really implied in the movie that she's. I mean, she says she was trying to be reasonable, but then she's like,
"This." But the people she kills, she doesn't know them. Like they have no attachment to her. But she did. Like one could argue that she wasn't trying to kill Doctor Strange. She was just trying to beat him to get to where she wanted to. You could argue that.
I mean, possibly. Like she doesn't really know Doctor Strange. The only times they were ever together, if I remember correctly, were at the battle in Endgame and then at Tony Stark's funeral, but they never talked.
But I think it's implied that they spent some time together and they knew each other, because when he first finds her, they have a friendly banter, like
I think
they've
that's
known
just like,
each other.
They were coworkers, but like, because we know pretty much immediately after Endgame, she does the WandaVision stuff. and then she leaves, and so there wouldn't really have been any time.
Maybe it would have made more sense if they kept Doctor Strange in WandaVision like they were supposed to, instead of cutting him out of the show for no reason. But I will agree that Wanda's one of the most consistent problems with her character is that her powers are inconsistent.
And yeah, I think it's a thing throughout all the movies, but since she's so much stronger now, they don't really have the excuse that, like, you know, when we see her fail in the other movies, it's because she was like, she couldn't have done anything else. Or like she, you know, and like in Civil War, we see her doing a bunch of stuff, and then she gets like hit from behind, and then she's basically incapacitated. But in this,
but
also
can
like
create force fields behind her back and still do other things. So she just always do that.
Well, in this movie, I also thought like there's times where she gets shot with lasers, and it like, or she gets punched by Miss America Chavez, and it's just like a giant shockwave like across an entire mountain. I'm like, is she just tank? Like, she doesn't have force fields up all the time. But then, like, she's getting... Unless she does. But then, like, I guess she got hurt by... Maybe it was... It looked like only...
It seemed like walking
Captain
on that
Carter
glass,
really hit her.
Walking on that glass seemed to hurt.
Or, like, yeah, walking on glass is hurting her, but then she's taking, like, shockwave and punches.
See, my only implication for that is that sometimes she's tired, and so she doesn't have any of her defenses up. Because sometimes... I think she has to consciously have her defenses up. I don't think like she's asleep. I don't think she's invulnerable.
I just felt like her power level. Also, one thing that is more of a thing with the first movie that I was. So the mirror dimension is explained as being another dimension in the multiverse in the first Doctor Strange movie. Yeah. And then she crosses that, and then it's like, well, it's impossible to physically cross multiverse dimensions. But she also just did it.
The mirror dimension isn't another universe, though.
Well, it's explained as a different dimension in the multiverse. I guess maybe there's a difference.
Because you turn places into the mirror dimension can be created anywhere, right? Yeah.
I think it's just a parallel dimension.
And when she came out of it, that was horrifying.
Yeah, it's very similar to like The Ring or something.
Yes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that was on purpose. That's what it reminded me of.
There's a lot of things where I'm like, oh, even the scene where she kills Professor X, when like the black smoke is coming in, the red smoke's coming in on the white background, it definitely felt like an homage to something.
The Mist.
Maybe The Mist, but I was like, I couldn't actually piece it, but I'm like, I feel like I've seen this scene before. There's just a lot of horror homages.
Yeah, when Doctor Strange first puts his hand on the piano, he hits the iconic horror key. Yeah. If you noticed.
I had a couple problems with action. I thought they were generally fine, but I thought there was a couple of times where in action scenes, Doctor Strange's powers could do like pretty much whatever. Like he made like a giant. It looked like a dog head to me at one point, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?"
That thing that jumped out and grabbed the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or him using like the musical notes.
I wish they'd explained it more.
Like, I don't know what he's necessary. I'm okay with like, you know, there's a rule of magic where you can't use magic to get yourself out of situations. So it was never like, well, he couldn't have done this except for this new spell. It's just like, I felt like it was visual flair, but they didn't really explain the visuals.
They should have explained it because I'm pretty sure I know what was going on with the hands and the monster thing.
Yeah, they definitely were connected. They were the same color.
Because I think what it is in the comics, Doctor Strange borrows aspects of other creatures and stuff all the time. Like when he fought Hulk in World War Hulk, he gave himself Zom's super powerful clobbering fists. And like that's something he does in the comics a lot, but he explains it's like, oh, I can borrow aspects of other creatures and gods and monsters and stuff. And I think that's what he was doing. But just like Infinity War, he uses a bunch of spells that he does in the comics without ever naming.
And I'm more okay with that happening in fight scenes. Because they do, I feel like the wizards kind of feel weak in a lot of ways. Like, especially with, even Strange, it's like, he doesn't have any spells to like help him get around faster. Yeah. Like, it's like without his cape and his sling ring, he can't really do much. And it seems like the wizards are very limited by, like, there's a lot of restrictions on them that I thought made them feel kind of grounded.
Mm-hmm. What about you, DeShan? What were some of the things you didn't like about the movie? Or just kind of a few issues that popped up for you?
I mean, like Anthony said, I did think the memory thing stuck out because I feel like they just didn't know how else to convey the information they needed to convey about America Chavez.
It just seems like a memory machine itself is kind of a force.
The memory machine thing is definitely weird.
Yeah.
But I think if I had any serious issues with it, I mean, most of the stuff I can think of is like stuff I like, well, I would have been neat if they did this or that.
You liked mostly everything about it.
Yeah, there are things, I'm sure if I think about it more, I will come up with a couple of things here and there. I do think, Scarlet Witch's powers are inconsistent. It's really hard to gauge what she can do and when. And I think, like, how easy is it for her to do something like this? But that's always been a part, and especially after WandaVision, like that show, she just like makes up new powers every other episode. And she just kind of does things because she needs to be able to do them. Like, I was thinking about WandaVision, like when she fought Agatha Harkness. I rewatched it recently, and she creates the hexes. Well, for one thing, two things I noticed, and I checked on the internet to make sure I was right. The runes she makes are not the same ones that Agatha Harkness made. Which means she made her own. I don't know how she knew how to do that. Agatha Harkness told her it was a thing, but she never told her how to do it. So she just kind of, I guess, guessed how to do it, or just like she's.
Yeah.
And it's just like the Scarlet Witch has always been like this. So I kind of gave it. Yeah.
Well, they explained in WandaVision, right. Agatha Harkness was like, it takes lifetimes to learn how to transmute things, and you transmuted this whole time without any training.
She did it by accident, and I think.
Yeah, but she also was able to control it too.
Yeah. I feel like that's like she did it. The first time she did it by accident. Now she kind of knows what it feels like to do it, so she can replicate that. But she was told about the runes, and then she just did it without ever trying it, or no trial and error. Just did it the first try, a piece of cake on purpose. I don't know. And then like I feel like the thing with the Ultron bots was on purpose because she has problems with Ultron.
I was really thinking there would be like a Tony Stark reference or something, because the Ultron bots, Hank Pym or something. I guess maybe Reed Richards built them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're good in this universe, because Reed Richards is smarter than Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Well,
I wonder if the yellow they are also powered by the Mind Stone in this universe, maybe. But I thought that was a neat little detail. I feel like they did that on purpose. She like picks up the head that's already broken, destroys it.
Smashes it.
She's got issues with Ultron.
Ultron killed her brother.
That was like the wrong thing to send to her when she was already mad.
It's like small stuff like that. That Sam Raimi, he's so good at making the flaws a part of the style of his movies that it's hard for me to even be legitimately upset with the things that are wrong with it. Like I go back and watch those old Spider-Man movies all the time, and I could probably find problems with each and every one of them. But it's like, but look what you get because of what he did. I don't know.
I guess
that's how I feel. I don't know. But I'm just a sucker for his movies.
One last problem I had is I feel like as far as MCU movies go, this is the one that's like the least the main character's movie. There's actually a surprising amount of like callbacks, like cameos or Easter eggs to the first movie that I didn't think would be in there.
Yeah.
Isn't
that guy?
Yeah, that guy who I was like, oh yeah, I guess he had a doctor you didn't like. Yeah. Or that pot thing she grabs him, the one that Doctor Strange grabs him. It's like, I don't know what. Kaisen was like, you don't know what to do with that.
It's like, I know.
But it's like interesting to see that Christine does. The thing she uses to like as a cannon.
She shoots the fire out of it. It's in the first.
He grabs it and points it at Caecilius, and Caecilius is like, oh,
like,
you don't know how to use that. And it's like, it says stuff about her Doctor Strange that she actually does know how to use it. And like their relationship. But I think just in general, like the plot is mostly about Scarlet Witch trying to get Miss America.
I'll agree with that.
And there isn't a lot of Doctor Strange stuff in the movie. It's not necessarily bad. I just felt like it might have been better to do. It might have been better if you're making a Doctor Strange movie to do more Doctor Strange stuff. Like there's a part where, like at the beginning of the movie, where they talk about how the multiverse is like you see it through dreams, and I was like, maybe they are bringing Nightmare into this because it's like this is like a setup for Nightmare. And then he's just.
I feel like
he could be coming.
That explanation for where dreams come from almost kind of makes Nightmare.
Because
inherently different, right, than he would be in the comics.
Well, I just felt like it was like, oh man, maybe not, because even Scarlet Witch is having these dreams of her kids throughout the multiverse.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe it's not always bad dreams. Maybe it's good dreams.
Yeah, my theory was that he.
Well, I think he's the one. I think because I'm not sure in the Marvel universe if he can only do bad dreams. I'm wondering. It feels almost like it could have been a thing where he was manipulating her into maybe like releasing him or something.
He trapped Spider-Man in a dream where Uncle Ben was alive in the comics, so he can't always do that.
He can't do stuff like that. That just made me think about like in real life, like what if that's true? Like when you dream, you're actually seeing yourself in a different universe.
I had the dream one time, I think I told you, where I was getting chased by like a giant monster, and I was just like, I don't have time for this, and jumped into its mouth. And I was like, man, that Anthony,
you jumped into his mouth, and you're like, it's over.
Then I woke up, and I was like, I guess that Anthony is
dead.
He just jumped in that monster's mouth.
He just got tired of running. I give up.
It's like I'm gonna be running all night, and then I'm gonna be tired of the morning.
I do that all the time. Like I have these dreams that I'm just super like this is it. I'm running. I wake up and I'm exhausted. So I should take a page out of your book, but I'm too scared. I'll be like, no. Well, I'm like DeShan. Like I can't think of specific things that I didn't like about the movie. Hearing them talk, like it is very obvious when they do the backstory for America Chavez, Miss America, that was just a blatant here. We have to let you know where her story is. Yeah. Here it is. Okay, so let's move on. And so that is true. It didn't feel like jarring to me or anything, you know. Actually, there were a couple things where I felt like the stakes are so high and then they'll slow down.
Yeah,
and you're like, we don't have time for this. Like they'll be talking, or when he got in a fight with Mordor, or what is his name?
Mordo.
Yeah, Mordo
I was just like, this. We don't have time for this. Or when he first goes back to Christine and he's trying to convince her, she's like, I don't know if I can trust you. I'm like, if that was me, I'd have been like, here, whatever you got to do, I'm out. Just take it. And you know, they were just like, it was weird to me.
It also kind of weird because like Scarlet Witch must have been like right behind them. Yes. Like, she gets distracted for like 10 seconds and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and that's where
and then they stop and have a whole conversation. It's like, she must be like right behind you guys. You guys should be getting going.
Right. It's like, but that was the whole movie. Yeah, that's movie
was the part
stuff.
where they stop and look at the door.
Yeah.
And the people are
they're like looking
run.
Like,
yeah, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, there's a scene where they block her off. Doctor Strange, America Chavez, and Christine, or they trap her and they behind this door, and they just standing there looking at the door. Like,
it's even weirder because she's already broken like 3 of those doors.
And we're so like, what are you doing? Like, go, move.
Oh, that's the part that scared you, I think.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that it's movie. It's a movie. You know, that's kind of reminds you, okay, it kind of brings you back down, because when you're in the action, you are in the action, like you are in it with them. Yeah. And I love that about that movie, but it does bring you back to like, oh, okay, this is a movie. Oh, we got to have a love, or like a little love connection between him and Christine. Oh, we got to have this, you know, these two people talking about whatever. Oh, and it's like, the monster's coming, you know, move.
It's like,
so
could they not have used Professor X's powers to like explain the situation better to everybody?
Exactly.
It's like, you know, he probably could even like sense what's going on out there and just like send it to Mordo, like, yeah, they're dead, my guy.
Because he was like, they're not coming back, and they were still arguing with him.
I couldn't even tell if Mordo actually cared or not. It seemed like, I think Doctor Strange might have been right. It seemed pretty personal.
In every universe, he's just like, jealous and didn't like him.
Or just like none of the people like trusted him. Yeah. Also, that was another thing where there was like, we can't trust Doctor Strange because this one caused an incursion. And I was like,
I guess like,
we were talking about something where it's like, it was Superman and Lois, where it's like she doesn't like Superman.
Yeah, for something Superman did.
For something another universe version of Superman did, and you know, it's like, guys, this isn't. You guys have one sample.
Well, they do imply that they've studied other universes and that they feel like it might be a constant.
Yeah,
problem.
And I was waiting for them to like explain that it was a constant thing, because we see later in the movie we see another Doctor Strange who had caused an incursion too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are naming the universes, so they've probably seen a couple.
Yeah.
So
I don't
know. It's just never really explained.
Seeing more examples wouldn't have hurt. I think you're probably right about that.
Right. Yeah, I feel like maybe part of my problems is this: a couple things rushed by too quickly without like giving like a full explanation for like what it means, especially to those characters. Like we see examples of Doctor Strange being bad like throughout the multiverse, or at least not being always trustworthy. But from what the Illuminati say, they've only seen one example of that. So maybe like just a couple more minutes throughout different conversations and stuff to like.
I think Christine is probably comes the closest to explaining why they don't trust him. Just because she says this is what she does. She studies the multiverse, so she's probably seeing where he goes bad in a couple.
Yeah, my thing is just they never mentioned that they've even seen another Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Well, they did say
which
that.
I wish they like had talked about.
What is it that Reed Richards says? I can't remember when they're talking about it.
Well, he says the biggest threat to the multiverse from what we've seen has been you. And then the explanation they give is just in our universe he calls it an incursion.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you have any other examples? Like
maybe I don't know. I thought the setup was good enough, but I can see how like getting more would help to drive it home. I
but it was already, how long was it?
The movie's
about
2 hours.
About
10 minutes.
Nah, it's closer to just 2 hours. I think it's 2 hours and 6 minutes if you include the credits.
Yeah, I mean, Eternals was 3 hours, and so was
Boy,
Endgame.
the Turtles, man.
Yeah.
So I don't think it needed to be that long, but like,
did another 20
another
minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But,
Wouldn't have hurt. I guess I picked up an implication that they've just been studying other universes and they just noticed like Doctor Strange seems to usually be the guy who messes things up.
That's what I picked up too.
But I do think
but they really only talked
one.
about personal examples. Like I was
the
expecting
personal
the
example
scene
I think
where
is
they
the
was.
most important one.
I was expecting the scene to like, and this isn't even the only time. Every character we've seen has been a Doctor Strange or something, and they never talk about it.
That couldn't be true because we got Loki. And
Loki didn't cause an incursion, but I'm pretty sure Kang has. And I actually was like, if they talk about threats to the multiverse, they'll probably say Kang or something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they weren't really after Doctor Strange. They just captured the one that came to them. Because I guess they assumed that he was going to do something.
Well, I'm like, if they were talking about the biggest threat to the multiverse, it's probably Kang,
and that's
right?
one thing,
Do
like...
they know that Kang exists?
That's one thing I wanted to talk about as far as, like, all the things that we maybe thought was going to be in... Like, people we thought would be in the movie, but also, even if they weren't in the movie, things that we thought would
connect to
suggested and, like, connected. What did you think about that?
So there isn't as many cameos as a lot of people were guessing.
Yeah.
It's really just
they were, like guessing a lot of people.
Yeah, you see the Illuminati, and that's... Like, they go to other universes, but it's mostly just variants of Doctor Strange in those universes.
And Krasinski's fantastic. Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say. I wonder if, because, they got the same guy to play Mordo, got the same person playing Captain Clark.
That's what I'm thinking. And
Dr.
Strange mentioned...
Dr. Strange.
He mentioned
Mr. Fantastic.
Dr. Strange mentioned when he saw Mr. Fantastic, he's like, didn't you go up in the 60s?
No, he said, didn't you chart? Because he was saying they sounded like a band.
Oh, the Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Because they're like all of them together.
Okay.
But I think it is a reference
like,
to them being created
funny.
in the 60s.
But,
Fantastic Four.
What are you saying? Like, so you think he's going to be...
Yeah, I wouldn't be
Richards
surprised
in
if in a
MCU?
couple weeks they're like, yeah, he's going to be Mr. Fantastic in the
I mean,
Fantastic Four movie.
People got so excited when they saw him. You got to do it.
Yeah, in the theater.
And we didn't get to see him really do anything.
Yeah.
They have a whole costume that already fits them.
And the thing that shocked me the most is that it looks like the concept art that people made of him in Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, I like he mentions that he has kids.
Yeah,
and in the
Franklin
comic
and
books, his
Valerie.
oldest son is a reality warper, kind of like.
Isn't he a Celestial, technically? I think they said he was like a
How was he a Celestial?
He's
Yeah,
like...
that's the whole thing. He was
Okay.
originally a mutant, but then Marvel's been like, no
Reed
one can be
Richards
mutants
was
unless they're
original.
X-Men, basically.
Okay.
Marvel's been trying to get everybody who's a mutant out of being a mutant, I guess probably so they can use them easier in the MCU.
Before they own the X-Men.
So, you talked about...
We're probably going to see them again, is what you're thinking.
Yeah, but something that I was expecting that didn't happen. Thought there'd be more. I thought there'd be some setup for the Young Avengers, like Wiccan and Speed. There hasn't. Besides the characters appearing, there hasn't been any setup for the Young Avengers.
Every opportunity to keep them around has been like, no, actually, no, you're not getting them.
Because even like, you got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where it's like Eli's there, but he's never really, he's not important.
Like, are they actually going to use these guys? Or
Hawkeye doesn't really see, Hawkeye doesn't imply Kate Bishop is going to join the Young Avengers.
Yeah.
I think I even talked about it, how it'd be like, I feel like she could just go and join the Avengers. I think I've talked about that before.
So they've introduced us to all these
people. Yeah, they introduced us to a lot
haven't...
of Young Avengers. I would say like it'd be more likely for Miss America to be on
Yeah,
Young Avengers team because she's just chilling on
yeah, the
our
twins
Earth, I guess.
just kind of don't exist in the regular universe.
Which I guess in the comic books that did happen. They stopped existing, and then they kind of got reincarnated in the past. So that next time she sees the teenagers of two separate families, they didn't even know they were brothers, but it's a whole weird thing.
Magic.
What else surprised you about any cameos or things that you thought it would lead to, or things you didn't think it'd lead to that it did lead to?
So I thought there'd be, I thought they'd mention Kang or something with the multiverse.
I did too.
Yeah.
Or with the after credit scene or something.
Yeah.
Or like even just a reference. And maybe if you like go through like them flying through the multiverse, there's like references to stuff. I think the Living Tribunal's there.
Yeah.
So
the first one
if we go back and watch
I wonder if you like
again,
you go through and there's like a Kang statue in one of the universes or something maybe.
I'm waiting for him to just actually show up. You know,
Because I feel like this movie doesn't really set up much actually.
he just references a lot.
So I was kind of surprised there wasn't more setup for like it.
But
really
that's been the story with everything in Phase 4.
Like,
we keep feeling like, oh, this is going to set this up, or oh, this person is going to come out of this. You know, we're going to get this new character. And it just doesn't happen.
So a lot of stuff's just setting up its own. Like, oh well, we'll see these characters deal with this. Like we see Clea shows up. A character from Doctor Strange's comic books in one of the post credit scenes is like, we gotta go stop this incursion.
Yeah.
And though her and Doctor Strange,
dark dimension.
yeah, she like has like a Psylocke blade and she cuts open a portal and they just jump in and it's like, well, this seems like something that would be in like Doctor Strange 3 or wherever it's gonna be. But it doesn't necessarily seem like
it's gonna lead to me, the Phase 4, it still feels very disjointed.
Yeah, the only thing we've had like cameo wise setting up something new is like Blade and the end of Eternals. That's just a voice, we don't even get to see him.
Yeah. And we don't even know what they're really gonna do with it.
Because I was also expecting some kind of tease and Moon Knight at the
Moon Knight
end.
kind of ends itself, honestly, except they set up more Moon Knight stuff, but nothing else.
I feel like all the Eternals mostly just sets up like the Eternals now have to deal with this thing now.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like
Shang-Chi also. Shang-Chi kind of sets up like he's part of the Avengers and stuff, so that one's more connected.
But the narrative hook is only related to him.
And I guess Black Widow set up Hawkeye a little bit. So
yeah,
even though that connection to Hawkeye doesn't make complete sense to me.
It's like we could look back at the end of this and be like, oh, we were so dumb. But to me, I feel like they keep missing opportunities. Like when they thought that Spider-Man was going to swing through in Hawkeye. It's like that. What?
Would have been kind of
you know what I mean? Or
I feel like if Spider-Man swung through, you'd have to like stop and help. You would just like swing past them.
Well, I mean, it's just like it seems like they're not. I guess I don't know. I feel like they're not trying as hard to connect the movies as I feel like they did.
I don't need connections like in the things more than like hints and stuff. You know, I mentioned to you guys that I kind of liked how you could watch Moon Knight without having seen anything else in the MCU and you get basically the full story. There's like one major reference to other things, maybe some background stuff, but it's mostly just its own standalone thing. I like seeing that. There's a reference to the afterlife of Black Panther. That's like the biggest reference, and even that's like a very small. The one thing I will say that they might be setting up with everything, because Incursions is a term pulled from the comic books, from this Secret Wars event, where basically the multiverse, a whole entire multiverse is collapsing, and every universe is entering into Incursions.
That's the only thing everything connects to that we've seen.
And so it's like, there's been a lot of people who's like, maybe they're building up to this. I would say that there isn't a lot of connections to it so far in the MCU. There's a lot of potential stuff, like Doctor Doom's a big villain in that, and we'll get a Fantastic Four movie, so maybe it'll build into that. But then we've said, like, maybe this will build into this a couple of times now. Like, this connects to WandaVision, and that's, like, the story. It's like WandaVision and this. And I guess you could go back to Infinity War and Endgame. And that's, like, the 4 movie story.
In the first Doctor Strange.
I don't even think you need to watch the first Doctor Strange to get this movie.
Age of Ultron, you kind of need to see that to understand WandaVision.
Yeah, I guess the more you go back into...
Yeah.
So Age of Ultron's the point you got to start. And then,
I guess if you wanted to get everything, you would probably watch Age of Ultron.
because
Then you need to watch the Avengers to gauge.
I mean, Age of Ultron not only explains where WandaVision, or where her head is at in WandaVision, but it also explains her connection to Vision entirely, right? And they go back to
like
Although they don't even talk about that in this movie.
yeah. Well, Vision
Well,
is
she
a-
says
is a-
one little line about it, but it's mostly about the kids.
Yeah.
White
Like,
Vision-
you wouldn't
I
even
feel like
know
that
that
White
Vision
Vision
was
is still out there, isn't
You
it?
wouldn't even know that
Yeah.
Vision was their dad. She
I
doesn't even mention
I
it.
completely forgot. There's a white Vision just kind of flying around out there somewhere.
Well, my
Maybe it
thing
would
is,
help
I
their
wonder
time
if the
back
other universes, the kids are real because they aren't Vision's kids. Like, they're just actually Scarlet Witch's
How does that make
biological
sense?
kids. But I'm like, I don't know who
Because
their
you don't
dad
see a
is.
father.
You don't see a dad at all in any of the
It feels
universes she looks in.
Mm-hmm.
She might just be looking into the same one every time. Like, she goes to the same one every time, but we don't know if she, like, looks into the same one every time. But, yeah, I felt like it was weird that they didn't mention Vision. I felt like you can kind of tell that, like, this and WandaVision were probably made at the same time.
Yeah.
And they had notes from each other, but they had it, like,
Well,
this movie hadn't seen WandaVision.
I think the original plan is that they were going to be at least a little more connected. I think that was the conceptual thing. I think it just played out differently as Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange apparently has changed a lot since they started.
And that might be one of the reasons why there isn't a lot of connections. Like, almost everything
It's
in Phase
changed,
4 has
yeah.
come out of order.
I mean,
so
they've
far.
reshot Spider-Man and Doctor Strange
Like,
extensively, right?
Yeah, well, because everything's been coming out of order, so
Yeah.
they might be like cutting down on
Hedging
connections
their
because
bets.
they don't know if this is gonna come out before or after this, just because it's like pandemic and you know, even like we know that next year Ant-Man and Black Panther have traded dates, so it's like, well,
I'm assuming they're not going to connect.
I mean, I assume they
But
didn't
they
have
might,
major
but they
connections,
might.
but it's like,
They
you
might.
know, out
You
of the
never know.
phase, almost everything has come out of order, and almost everything's been pretty standalone. And I wonder if
Yeah.
that's connected.
What are the things that you thought it would lead to, or and it didn't, or things that you didn't even think of and it did lead to it, or cameos that you were surprised about?
I was just hopeful that they'd finally just give Krasinski a bone and let him, like, just let him beef at Mr. Fantastic. Like, everybody wants it. Who's it gonna hurt?
I thought that was awesome. I love John Krasinski.
I think he's great. He's been trying to get into the MCU since Phase 1.
Really?
Yeah, he
He
auditioned for
applied to
Captain
be
America,
controversial.
and he also
applied
auditioned to be Star
audition.
Wars.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he's been trying to get in.
But he, as the
Mr.
Mr.
Fantastic.
Fantastic, he just seems like that. He seems like that's him.
Yeah, they did a good job with. I mean, in just a few seconds, because Fantastic Four are probably my second favorite superhero team in comics. And I
Your
think
first is
Justice League. I think the Fantastic Four, everybody sleeps on them because they've never had a great movie, you know. But
I thought the old movies were good.
I like
I
them.
think they're pretty decent. I mean,
It's
they
just
are.
nobody else likes them, you know.
I think they could up their entertainment value,
Yeah,
but they also don't feel like they're very similar to what the Fantastic Four are like in the comic books.
yeah. The characters.
There's
are
a
on
couple
point.
things I was like a little, you know, they did it now, it'd be like more over the top because the
Okay.
MCU has proven like you can do whatever.
You
Yeah.
think Michael Chiklis will be the thing? He's too old.
Yeah, he's probably too old now.
They're probably a whole new cast.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just like the Fantastic Four are so cool to me that they're the comic book where Stan and Jack just kind of did whatever they wanted.
And they have one of your favorite villains.
Yeah, I mean, Doctor Doom, Galactus, Annihilus. They got like the Mole Man. Their villains are so weird and crazy and out there. And I want to see Galactus really bad. I'm pretty sure, and most people are pretty sure he's going to show up soon. And I was really happy to see him in the movie. It's like everybody that's been begging for it can finally be like, oh, we got him. And I hope that he's the same, you know, they use him again as a variant of that one.
Me too.
When they make that Fantastic Four movie, which will probably come out in the next year or two, depending on how production on that goes.
And he did good with his little part too.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say I was right. It was Maria Rambo and not.
Yeah, you were right.
Not the
Not
Tony
an
Stark.
ounce
I knew
of
it was a
superior
woman.
Iron Man.
I was
knew
like,
it was
this
a
is
woman.
a black woman. I was like, you can't look at how curvy this person is.
Oh, you was like,
Well,
nah,
she-
she ain't even a white woman. She's a black woman
Yeah.
with all that booty and hips.
I was like, nah.
That's not Tony Stark.
I knew it was a woman
It's
because I mean,
definitely
you can
not
see the
Tom
boobs.
Cruise. I mean,
I wonder
the
if
Ultron
Tom
being in it
Cruise
made
is
me
going to
think
be
there was
so
gonna be
happy
some
that this
kind of
movie
Iron Man.
came out because I'm sure every time he walked out the house,
Someone was like,
people
"Are
was
you
like,
in
"Are
the?"
you in the movie? Are
He's
you in
like,
the movie?"
first time someone asked him, he hadn't even heard of the movie.
You can't even say no because nobody's going to believe that.
I know.
It's like Andrew
So
Garfield.
now he'll
But,
be able to sleep in peace.
If there was anything, I think I would have. I don't even know how it would work because narratively they're in the movie about as much as they need to be. But it would have been nice to see a little bit more of the. Like you got Professor X,
yeah.
and I'm like, the
Yeah.
X-Men are in this universe too.
I
right?
wonder how well this movie plays with someone who doesn't like. If you don't know who these characters are, they
Yeah,
don't
they're
get
very random.
like Mordo gives you a brief explanation, like, but he doesn't even tell you that Mr. Fantastic can stretch. He just does that later in the movie. It's
I
like,
guess you
yeah.
could just treat them like, oh, these are the heroes of this random universe, whatever. But
Do
it's
you
like
think that they were just there to show how powerful she is because she
Maybe.
disposes of them so
the
easily?
Illuminati are like top tier
I
power.
do-
In the
I know
comics.
that's what I've heard, but she just like
Yeah, she just
Yeah.
Why?
I do
It
think it's
wasn't
weird that she
nothing.
kills Captain Marvel by jamming the statue in her. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
didn't
guess
think
that'll
that
kill
was
her.
the trick, but I guess it
It's
did.
like, I mean, she just
maybe
take
she didn't die. Maybe she was knocked out because I thought those other people were dead, and she rose them
Yeah.
back up and they weren't dead.
It's cool
But
seeing them
she
in the X-Men.
sliced Peggy Carter in
Yeah.
half with
Yeah.
her sword. I was
Peggy
like,
Carter.
she is insane.
with
Like
the shield.
she was like Negan
There's
from Walking Dead.
There's
She
a
is a
moment in Winter
sociopath.
Soldier where Captain America cuts somebody's head off, and no one knows. But I'm like, if you follow the movie, that's what it's implying. But
And Winter Soldier.
yeah, he like throws his shield
Oh,
at
and
Batroc. Batroc dodges, and there's a guy behind him. You don't see that guy anymore, but then the shield gets stuck into the wall, and it's like that dude is dead.
You got him.
Yeah, I was like, whoa,
Like,
when she did that.
Like a bit violent. There was even like the part where they rip out that monster's eye.
Yeah.
He was like,
Shuma McGoran.
Ugh, it was so
he was like,
disgusting.
Didn't-
There was a lot of like
I mean,
scary, quasi-scary /
that
gross
ending.
it was
stuff in
pretty violent for a Marvel
It was
movie.
very violent, and just the
Very,
way, like, you know what else it reminded me of when she had that stuff down her face, Carrie.
Yeah, I think that was a Carrie reference. Because I'm like,
Yes.
are they really gonna have her like just be covered in blood? But it ends up being
She's-
oil.
Yeah, where was the oil from?
From the robot she was destroying.
Oh.
But
And it
it's
was like, it was just like, and then instantly she looked exactly like Carrie, so I thought that was neat.
yeah, there's a lot of horror movie references throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including references to Sam Raimi horror movies.
Yeah, it's the ghosts or whatever. They
Yeah.
kind of felt like a
Very-
Sam Raimi
Yeah,
thing.
very like Evil Dead.
Yeah, they felt very because they had like kind of weird like higher pitched voices, and they like
like the
we
way
gotta
they
get
talk.
you.
Yeah, very Sam Raimi. And like the zombie Doctor Strange looks
Yeah.
like a Sam Raimi zombie Doctor Strange. Like
I was like, oh no, he's about to make him come back. Ooh.
It's like, that's such a Sam Raimi
Like you
idea.
said, it had to be alive.
That third eye when that popped up on that
Yes,
evil Doctor Strange, and he
ew.
was like, she got a lot of like
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
vocal reactions from you.
But Sam Raimi's the
throughout
perfect
movie.
guy to cover Doctor Strange because that's just kind of like anything's possible. Like there's an evil haunted house in the comics that it's actually a monster that just looks like a house, and people go in there and then they just disappear.
And eat them.
Yeah, and then Doctor Strange showed up. He's like, "What's going on in this house?" The house tried to negotiate with him. He's like, "Well, we're both powerful people. Why don't you just let me keep eating people?" He's like,
Was
"No,
that
no
before
thanks."
or after the Monster House movie came
I
out?
think it was before. I don't know. Yeah, it's just
So
weird
was,
stuff like
was
that.
there anything else that you thought might happen that didn't happen, or you weren't thinking that happened and it did happen?
I definitely didn't expect Scarlet Witch to be the main villain. I
Yes.
thought she was gonna have a
I
arc
didn't
where she
either.
turns bad.
So, yeah, I was thinking
She's
that
at
she was
100
when we
the whole
first saw
time.
the initial trailers, and you guys convinced
I
me
was
that
gonna
she
say, one of
wasn't.
y'all was saying
I
that
just
she
didn't
was
expect her to
gonna
go that
be-
fat, like
It's
that
like-
far.
That was you that was saying.
Yeah, I was
think
like-
she's
I
gonna
was
be the
feeling like
main
she's just
villain.
gonna
And I
be
was
the
like,
main
no,
villain.
no, she won't be.
I was
She'll
so
be bad
sure
for a minute,
there
but
was
then
going to be
she'll go
another
good.
bad guy in the movie.
And then that last, one of those last trailers, and we saw one of those monsters, like the top of its head, and I was like, oh, that's Catan. So I guess I was wrong.
Yeah,
And you guys was like, this is Catan, and I was like, it does look like him, so.
I thought Cthulhu would be in the movie. I thought there was going to be a bigger villain, just like in WandaVision. And it turns out, it's not, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, if you think about the big villain, I guess it's technically the Darkhold,
yeah.
Yeah. The book.
which is
And it's very Sam Raimi too, because if you look at his villains in his other movies, they're always.
I mean, it's very
And that's how they did
Yeah.
it. That's how they did it with
the Necronomicon Book of the
Agents
Dead.
of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That was the
season
villain. The
4,
book was the villain.
which is the best
The whole
season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in my opinion.
It was frustrating to me. I was like,
Yeah,
they
well,
couldn't get out of that world. It was making me bad.
yeah, because that season they struggle a lot against Ada, but it's like the Darkhold's also it's used very similarly to how it's used here, and so it kind of prepared me for that's part of the reason why I'm like, she's just gonna be evil, because that's the Darkhold.
I thought Doctor Strange could fix her. I knew that that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did prepare me for what the Darkhold would do to her, because I remember when we saw the end credit when she was reading it at the last movie, and I was like, oh no, she's gonna be bad, because I remember that from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I thought he would get to her in time where she wasn't all the way gone.
I should have known.
Sorry, real quick. On Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe not being canon, they do explain the Darkhold very similar to how they explain it, where it's like, it just shows you, it corrupts you, but you don't know you're being corrupted, because it just shows you what you want.
Yeah,
it just shows you how to get to what you want.
Yeah, and you it shows you what you want, and it makes you feel like you'll do anything to get it.
Yeah.
Like the guy, like the Doctor Strange that was trying to get Christine, and he destroyed his own world and stuff like that. That's exactly how it was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There's even a part where remember the bad guy at the beginning, he wanted to basically become all powerful, but he was ripping the universe apart by doing that, because he was stealing energy from the dark dimension, is how it's explained in the show. Yeah. And it's like, this seems very similar to what Doctor Strange might have been doing.
Yeah, to get to Christine.
And so it's just like,
we have hope, because I really want
and they mentioned Inhumans in this movie.
In the MCU so bad.
They mentioned Inhumans in this movie, so
yes,
I'm like,
Inhumans are mentioned.
Quake could appear.
Where are the Inhumans at this point, though? That's the weird part. They just never do anything.
And it's the guy from the.
It's the guy from the show, which you can't tell because he's actually wearing his outfit for the comics.
He has a very distinct face, though.
I guess since I didn't watch the show, I can't immediately tell it's him. But
so we have hope for that.
I should have known that Scarlet Witch was just going to be the main villain when Sam Raimi took over, because that's what he always does with his bad guys. They're always like a character that gets so obsessed with what they want that they start turning bad. Like you look at Doc Ock, wanted to build that machine so bad that he was tempted by the tentacles. They were like, you got to do it. That's your life's work.
Yeah.
That's just what he does. And then the villain, usually when they realize what they've become, they destroy themselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's so true.
It's the same thing. It's what Scarlet Witch did.
I mean, have you seen Evil Dead, Mom?
I don't think so.
So in that, it's like some teenagers read a book, and then it's like bringing a bunch of, they aren't zombies, but they're kind of like zombies from another dimension kind of thing. And I felt like just the way that book is used is very similar.
He's like, hey, I've done this before. I'll just do that again.
Just like that. I don't know. So it felt like very Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
I just think, like I said, there were so many theories about who would be in this movie and all the different characters and everything. So I don't know the comic book, so I really didn't have an idea of who I thought would be in the movie. I did think Kane would either be mentioned or would show up, just because I'm thinking he's going to be teased to be the big bad for the whole phase. That's just my thoughts. So I thought, we had this whole thing with Kane. They were talking about the multiverse. He was in Loki, so I just thought, they'll talk about Kane being a threat. It was so many things, and I think when I think back, I'm like, okay, the multiverse seems to be the main connector to all of these movies, and there's so many different people that have magic and have powers that can change the multiverse. So maybe that's what they're doing. So the multiverse could be messed up from so many different things that have happened so far. I mean, even with the Eternals, and Wanda could do something, or Doctor Strange can make a mistake. Or from Shang-Chi, that magic could go crazy. It's just, from all the things that we've gotten so far, there's opportunities for the multiverse to go crazy. With that being said, it also does feel a little disjointed, because when you think it's gonna bring a character in to kind of close up a loop, and it doesn't. So I guess that's good for them because it keeps us wanting to watch the next thing. It just creates a lot of questions, and that always creates curiosity, and then you'll want to go and see the next thing. So maybe that's what they're doing, but
yeah, I would say if you're going into a movie expecting them to go to like 50 different universes and meet like every body who's ever been a Marvel character, like they don't really do that.
yeah,
I guess
It's more focused than I thought it'd be.
I'd say Phase 4 has made it a lot more difficult to predict where the movies are going. And
There's no real through line.
thinking about it, that might be a good thing. Because I think maybe we've been conditioned to a certain point. Like when you go watch the movie, you're not really going to watch the movie, you're going to get the next piece of a puzzle. And you're just waiting for the tease of what happens next, and maybe
me and you talked about that.
forcing people to take a step back. It's like, just no, this is a story, you know. Enjoy the story. Yeah, I think that could be a good thing.
And we're still fighting it because we still keep.
You know, we're
and
just
me and DeShan were just talking about that because I was like, I think over the first 3 phases we were so conditioned to feel like, okay, this is going to lead to the next thing, and this is going to lead to the next thing, and even if you really can't see the connections, then when you see like after 2 or 3 movies, then they bring them all together, and so then you go back and you're like, oh, okay, but they're not doing that with this one.
I think especially Phase 3, that's how it was. Like,
it was just
almost
like,
every Phase 3 movie had like a big connection. To like something else.
And so we've been conditioned, but then I do think in DeShan's words, like I think they're probably wanting to do something different. So even though they know the fans,
been saying for a while.
Yeah, I know the fans are expecting it to be the same playbook.
Yeah.
Even if the movies and the characters are different, the fans are looking for it to be the same playbook, and it's not. And so maybe they're doing that on purpose. You know, it could be an accident. Maybe, you know, because I know they just had their retreat because he wanted to really nail down what was going on because it felt, I don't know,
they might have
like they didn't have a real,
I
you
think,
know. So I know that in their own words, if there's an issue.
I think the meeting is because I think in the past year they probably changed a lot of their plans.
Yeah,
Like
I wonder if there
with
was.
the
I wonder if they had to
movies
cut
coming
so
out
many connections that anything
Now
they were
they gotta
building up to. Because they got like 2 movies that we don't know that are like have been announced as movies, but we don't know what they are. And so I think, you know, a lot of people are thinking they'd be like a Secret Wars movie or something. But I wonder if they're like, well, we haven't set up in it because we had to cut all the connections to stuff. So
because
how are we going to
because of the different order?
And
I wonder if they're like, how are we going to reset up the future?
I know they just had that retreat, so
I actually hadn't heard about that retreat though.
I heard about it the other day.
It was like all over YouTube a few days before the premiere. They went to somewhere and
hashed it out.
Hashed it out.
It's something they do in the comics every year, actually.
Really?
Yeah, the Marvel people that work, they just all go on a retreat together and talk about the next year or so of comics.
Now, what I will say is I watched the interview with Kevin Feige, and he said, so maybe we gotta watch this movie again because he was like, oh, you know, it's gonna explain a lot, and you know, Sylvie and Loki.
Yeah, he talked about the multiverse connection.
Yeah,
that was something
multiverse
I saw that
connection,
quote,
and
I was like, this movie does not explain it.
Yeah.
I'm at this point
And he
where
said that what Loki and Sylvie did
created the
multiverse, or like created, you know, and
which allows this,
it allowed it caused the spell to go wrong in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
he said that.
He said which messed with the multiverse,
which
but
caused,
like both from Spider-Man's like it's briefly mentioned, but it's not really relevant to the movie.
I mean,
well,
this
he
is
said
what
that.
Feige said.
Yeah, Feige said that that's the reason why the spell went wrong, and also that's the reason why we have the issues with. He said the multiverse going mad.
Like the multiverse isn't really going mad though. They just travel to different places.
I mean,
I guess it's the
when you got infinite universes, I guess it's just going to be inherently chaotic.
Maybe the idea is that they've already triggered an incursion in the main
He said
universe.
because there's no, not Kang, but he who remains. He said because he's not there anymore, keeping things in order.
Kang might start doing
Now
stuff.
all of this stuff is happening. So that was what he said was the connection.
I wonder if maybe that he's trying, and maybe he's not actually trying to imply it, but I wonder if it does imply that, like, because there's been a lot of multiverse stuff going on in the mainline universe, and there's like, oh, every time you do this, there's a chance of an incursion. and we don't know like what the incursion looks like. In the comic books, it takes time. Like after it triggers, it takes time before the universe is destroyed.
Yeah.
So, it's not
So I
like
wonder.
immediate.
Yeah, I wonder if
Secret
like it's already
Wars.
been like
started.
and
That's what.
if
Yeah.
they haven't figured it out yet.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if there is a through line, and if they're leading anywhere, I think it's just making Doctor Doom the next big bad. I think that's
Better than Kang.
I wonder
Well,
if they would
Dr.
make
Doom is-
Kang the guy in Secret Wars, but
I think.
see the thing is in the comic books, Kang isn't that cool.
Okay.
So, what would you overall? What kind of score would you give the movie?
I think for me, it was pretty good, but it had a lot of some problems to it, and like I thought like directing and acting wise is good, but the writing sometimes felt a little clunky, or like things would happen just because of the plot. I felt like it held it back a little, so I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10.
Okay. And DeShan?
I'm sitting at a 9 out of 10 right now, just because I enjoyed the movie. I look for specific things when I watch pretty much any movie, as long as I'm not confused or bored, which is what usually gets me, like, or annoyed. And the whole time from beginning to end, I was engaged in the story.
Yeah,
like I
it
mentioned,
starts off moving.
I didn't even notice that I didn't eat any popcorn the whole time because I was like, just like paying attention. I wanted to see what Scarlet
From
Witch was
start
going
to
to do
finish,
next.
it's action.
Like
From the beginning to the end.
they had me hooked from the first scene with Scarlet Witch, where she turns out to be evil. She's like, "Look, give me one chance to give me that kid, or I'm gonna
I was
show
like,
up."
oh my
I was
goodness.
like, "Dang, they're
I was
really
a
going
little
there."
bit surprised. I thought they would team up a little bit
I
before she
did
was revealed to be evil.
Yeah.
It's like the first time she talks to him, she's like, "Hey, I'm evil, by the way."
Right, I'm evil now.
Yeah, I thought that was just. It's like, well, one of my things that I complain about all the time with certain stuff is like, man, they're wasting time to get to the part where I'm actually supposed to be engaged in the story. They don't do that in this movie.
No, they
I
don't.
think-
It's from the start.
Yeah, I'm like, because that's my whole thing. Like, one of my philosophies with entertainment is like, just don't waste my time.
Yeah.
You know, and when you waste my time, then I get upset.
So you would say a 9,
I'd say a 9.
a strong 9.
Yeah, strong 9, maybe even higher depending on how I feel about it as time passes.
Yeah.
But it's up there. I think it's not only the best thing in Phase 4, but it's up there with some of my favorite MCU movies. Maybe not. Probably not number 1, but it's in a conversation with some of the top ones for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my husband also went with us, their dad, and he said he'd give it about a 7. I said about a 7.5 or 8. Closer to 8. I thought it was a really good movie. For as far as Phase 4 goes, WandaVision is still my favorite thing that we've seen in Phase 4. You know, and that's why I really like this movie, because like Anthony said, it was more of a Wanda movie than a Doctor Strange movie to
If
me.
you could only watch one thing before this movie, WandaVision probably
Yeah, and
helps
then you
more
would know
than
everything you
Doctor
need. You
Strange.
don't even need to, yeah. So that's probably why I would give it an 8, because it does, you know, piggyback off of WandaVision a lot. And the actors, all of them did an excellent job. It was different, it was creative, it was visually stunning. The music was great. It just, everything was really, really good. So like closer to an 8, I think, for me. Any closing thoughts?
I want them to have Sam Raimi do more stuff in the MCU. I don't know if I'd say Doctor Strange 3, or maybe I know that they were thinking about doing something else with Marvel Zombies. Maybe put him on that.
I mean, they're getting another animated series, so
Yeah, maybe put him on that. I don't know. But I think my final thoughts is that I think I really needed this movie for the MCU, because I was starting to get a little drained on it and frustrated with it. And I think Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange are like the 2 movies where I'm like, well, now at least there's something. I'm like, I gotta see what they do next.
Yeah.
I
love Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
It was so good.
And it's like, you know, that's all I really wanted was like, you know, I was, I'm glad that I liked it as much as I did, because I as much as I complain about entertainment, I don't actually like not liking it.
Yeah. Especially something that you love. Like, you love the comic books.
Yeah. So I'm always happy
You
when
want them to do well with the characters.
I mean, that's Steve Ditko's 2 guys, Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, that he created with Stan Lee. So I'm glad that the Ditko characters at least had a good run in Phase 4 for me.
And what about you? Final thoughts?
yeah, I thought generally it was enjoyable. I think it's gotten a little bit of some rough critical reviews so far. Like, I saw some people saying it was like a complete mess of a movie, and I didn't think it was. There was a couple things where I was like, oh, this is messy. They need a little bit more time here. But I thought overall it worked fine.
Mm-hmm. And that's what my final thoughts are. It's a good movie. We recommend it, especially if you're a comic book fan, a Doctor Strange fan, a Wanda fan. I think you will enjoy the movie, and that's it. So I thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for spending your time with us. Please consider subscribing if you're not already a member. Turn on your notifications and give this video a like if you liked it, please. It helps my channel to grow so much. And we hope you have a very wonderful and blessed day. Bye.